Welcome to Above the Garage. Hi, friends. Welcome to our second episode of our Shining Girls spinoff. Let's do our round of introductions and talk about episode 2.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
Hi, I'm Claudia.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
I'm Diana.
And I'm Kate. So the episode opens with Kirby still tolerating Marcus's hug because she's just walked into her new apartment on her new floor with her new husband. It's too bad because she was very happy to see her cat. She was like, okay, I can dig this scenario. And then her coworker Marcus walks out, who is apparently her husband. And he's upset because she was supposed to go by the store for a ton of things. They're having a party for Marcus's birthday. And then people we've seen at the Sun that previously didn't know her name even, are arriving in her home now, which must be weird for her.
Yeah, I also noticed she seemed to be more popular as Marcus's wife than she was before.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she has friends now, which she didn't seem to in the last one. And I'm sure that's mostly Marcus. And then Kirby sees a picture of her wedding on the wall. Is that the first time she realizes it's her husband? Not boyfriend or anything?
It doesn't, yeah.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And her coworker catches her looking at it and asks if she and Marcus are doing okay. I love how Lizzie says, I think so here, because she's so funny. I have no idea what's going on, sure.
What I loved was that she threw in another Cubs reference here.
Did she? What was it?
The co-workers were talking to each other because party, we are just doing small talk, and they talked about the Cubs. And I found it funny because in the first episode we had the
pen, the button,
the pen. And now they talked about it, yeah.
She loves the Cubs.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's more people flooding in. They call for the cake, and they look at Kirby, and Kirby's like, no cake. Sorry about that. And she gives the funniest speech. I don't know how I got here, and being married to you just doesn't seem real. Happy birthday.
It was perfect.
When in doubt, go with honesty, but maybe she could have sold it a little better.
But the people loved it.
Yeah, and that was the point. She's very uncomfortable.
I loved it too because it was the absolute truth, and it also sounded like a sentimental speech at the same time.
Yeah,
so it was perfectly worded.
That's right. She did good. But Marcus notices something's going on with her. All right, so she goes in her bedroom to escape all the people, and she's looking for her memory book under her bed, which I said in the last episode, but if I were her, I would keep that book on my person at all times and not just hope that it transfers to the new beds.
Mm-hmm.
And she's relieved when she finds it. I was too.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Giordano's. Has anyone been to Chicago and had the Giordano's deep dish pizza?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while for me. Is it reversed? So is the sauce on top for deep dish or not there or what? I know it occurs somewhere.
It's been a while since I had it, but I just remember the really deep dish pizza, and it's just got all those toppings that fill it up. So I got excited when he said he was going to call in an order to Giordano's.
Yeah.
I would like to say about that scene something. Because I noticed that the notes that she wrote changed, that she already had a husband, there. So to what extent can she rely on those notes if they change also? If her reality changes, the notes change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought that too.
I wondered because in the first episode we see her actively changing the notes, and then now it's already done. So I thought, how many days did she skip? Because maybe the change in the notes has already happened by her, but she can't remember because she just skipped ahead a few days. It was so weird.
It's also disconcerting.
I've been describing this show as a quote unquote mindfuck because it doesn't make sense, and you kind of just have to go with it and hope that at some point things will gel at some point.
That was Kimberly's choice of word in the last episode as well. So
nice. We're on the same wavelength.
I think it's pretty fitting.
Also, as a introvert, I know there's so many terrifying things in this television show as it is, but the idea of coming home to a full-on husband and an impromptu party, the most terrifying thing I can think of. Just all at once, and the way the people flooded in,
yes.
like everybody comes at the exact same time and people just like flood in, and it's horrifying to me to think of all of a sudden you have to be social with an entire room of people and a husband. Anyway.
I do absolutely love that in the context of this show that the party is what's freaking you out. But I get it because I would hate it too.
Yeah, well, it's the first thing that freaks me out. It's not the only thing, but it's the
Right.
first thing that freaks me out in this episode.
Yeah.
And did you notice that Marcus sees her going into her bedroom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he definitely. I like that he is really taking the cues already from the beginning. So he's not someone that just doesn't look out for her or something.
Right. Ignoring her. And then we flip to Dan, and he's approaching Howard, who's playing Street Fighter. I miss smashing all the keys on that game. I miss arcades. But Dan approaches him and asks about last night's crime stats, and Howard tells him that the first week of spring, people like to kill each other. I wonder if that's true. And he asks about Kirby, and Howard tells him he shouldn't have brought her into the morgue, which is true. I agree with that. She was fine until she wasn't. And he asks if her wounds matched Julia Madrigal's, and Howard says they're too old to tell, which is surprising to me because they're pretty damn visible still. And the disappearing female medical examiner, Iris, seemed to read quite a bit from them. But Dan asks if there was anything inside of her, and so they take a field trip to the morgue to show him the evidence, and he says, there wasn't anything, but they find this like Altoid box of radium from the 1950s. And Howard says, like, it's way too old. It's been there forever, before the murder. And Dan takes a picture of it and asks him to bring her corpse out. And then when he walks over and turns the lights out, and you can see her insides glowing, so that that box was inside of her because the radium is glowing.
This dude is bad at his job.
Thank you. That was my note. First of all, Iris was way better, but he's just bad because if a reporter does your job better than you should be worried. And also, I feel like they should be more concerned about all the radium around them, because Marie and Pierre Curie discovered radium in 1898, and apparently her journals still emit an enormous amount of radium from them, like a dangerous amount. So just having it in the morgue like that and being unconcerned, he's not an intelligent man.
No.
I find it crazy that they had like Altoid boxes of radium, which we can talk about later.
Maybe he's not as concerned because he's not. I don't know when they realized that it takes so long, and it's still dangerous because he said it's off the market since the 50s. And I mean, it has been some time and down there in the water, and maybe the doc doesn't think that it's still because we never got to know if there's something in there, right?
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah. But it sounds like if it's still hanging around on Marie Curie's journals 100 years later, that he's wrong.
Horrible.
I took that note about the 50s, like radium's been off the market since the 50s. I wondered if that was a clue. I don't know if he has a name yet, but Jamie Bell's character, is that a clue to the origin of his time, or like, because he's clearly like hopping around? And
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I'm speculating. I want to come out too is I haven't read the book, so I'm not.
Yeah, I meant to cover that.
Like, I have no idea what's coming. Yeah. But that was a speculation little note I took about the 50s.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we have people that haven't read the book and have read the book. And I mentioned that last time. But so Rachel hasn't read the book. Kimberly hasn't read the book. Deanna has. Right? You have, Deanna. Yeah, I have. Yes, and Claudia, have you read it? Not read it. So we've got 3 that have not read it. Cool. I like it.
I heard some spoilers, so I'm not completely unaware, but most of the time I'm unaware of everything.
So then I'm going to call him Harper. Everyone's made the point that his name hasn't been revealed.
Hasn't it been revealed in the 3 clips that were out?
Yeah, and the characters clips in the
interviews,
synopsis also.
Yeah. So maybe it's okay that we call him Harper. Yeah.
So Harper finds an article that Dan wrote about Julia Madrigal that is talking about Pavlo Banek. So did he file the article about him after all? I thought after the first episode he was not going to file it.
No, he said the line comes later. He says that it's just a holding piece. So they had to put out something, but it did just a little article, so they can come up with the big story later. And yeah, the big thing was in that scene that Harper comes into his home, we think, maybe, and he fetches a coffee, then sits down with the paper, and right in a minute, as he notices the article about Julia, his cup changes.
And that's why he looks at it funny.
He looks at it, and it's like he's okay. Now I'm having this cup, and he's not wondering. So it's, he knows what's happening.
Yeah, he noticed it, but it didn't shock him.
Yeah.
I noticed the music as well, especially when he noticed the cup. I feel like that might be important because it's like when he saw the article that the body was found, he would have been anxious or angry or something like that. I feel like maybe something's going to be with his moods. I'm not sure. I just had that feeling.
That's a good theory. Yeah.
And it says in the article, it says the suspect in her murder was a former client of hers. And now Harper's in a room talking to someone who I'm thinking would be Pavlo, but he calls him Leo. Is that Pavlo? Is that the same guy?
I don't think so.
No, it's different.
I think he visits someone that he knows, and that's where he met Julia. So and it's the time changes. It's 1990, not 1992.
Yeah. And I was confused who that was, but I guess I just took it we're not supposed to know yet.
There is also one thing, and it's that it goes 2 years back, right? Is that when the examiner was talking to Dan, he says that she was dragged, that the body was found in the pipes, but she was not there originally, that she was dumped in there. And in another scene they mentioned that she was disappeared, or she was missing for 2 years. And the flashback when I don't know how to call them in this show, says that the 90s and the present time is 1992, so 2 years. So I think that's the time maybe he killed her in 1990 and then dumped her in 1982 or something.
I had the feeling that the guy was either his brother or his or a long friend from wartime or something, because afterwards when he sees Julia, she points out that he might have been serving the country, and Leo talks about something about gas leaking, and first the dogs notice it, and then the horses notice it, and they scream, and then the people notice it and die. Yeah, so something has happened between them, and it seems that Leo is highly affected and maybe has some issues from that time. Yeah, so maybe they served together.
Yeah, and I think I first got, it could be that it like served together. I also got a brother vibe, but I don't. Again, I just took it for what it was, because I was like, I don't know who this person is.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find out later.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, so obviously Julia is like a vet counselor of sorts, and Harper says he has to go because she's just getting here. So and the guy says like Julia, so he knows. So Harper comes downstairs with 2 coffees and offers her one, which she turns down because it is in fact very strange for a complete stranger to approach you with 2 coffees and offer you one. And also they're probably cold, but she's friendly with him, and she jokes with him about his gig line, which I guess is the belt and the buckle lineup, where you're here visiting someone you used to serve with. And he says, how did you know? And she says it takes training for a man to match his buttons to his buckle.
I was just going to say, I found it creepy when he said to the guy before he sees Julia, he says, she's not mine, not this time. I don't know, that creeped me out.
Yeah.
It's like he met her on another timeline, or I don't know. It sounds like that, and they were together or something like that.
I think his perception of his relationship with her is feeding into that line. Like his view of his relationship with these women is different from reality.
Yes.
You think?
I thought maybe he meant like as in she's not mine, not this time, as in he's not going to kill her today.
Mhm.
Oh,
That could
maybe.
be it. Yeah.
He's good at saying really creepy things.
Uh-huh.
And then after, she's friendly with him, and he immediately takes the friendliness way too far and tells her she shouldn't wear her hair like that at work. Who says that? What does that even mean? And she reacts like I would react, and is like, don't touch me, like immediately. And he seems like he's always like pulling off being friendly for like a moment before he blows it. But I loved her firm reaction. And then she also greets the old man and immediately puts her arm around his back, which probably pissed him off too, because she's touching him.
What I also notice is that he's like he's going on a date at first when he's with the guy. Do I look good? And
Yeah,
taking the coffee and all
the
these
two
things.
coffees.
And the woman doesn't know him and is totally freaked out, but he's like flustered. I know now, Lizzie said in an interview that he has to think like some of this is romantic. And that's how I perceived it, because he thinks he's doing something good and courting them, and he is obviously not. Yeah.
So creepy.
So pretty. Oh.
And all these encounters with the women that we've seen so far, they're so relatable, where I mean, God forbid any of us actually encounter a serial killer, but it's like just and like that type of unwanted, uninvited attention from a complete stranger that just seems a little too familiar, too intimate, too soon. And how many of us have been in that situation where we kind of giggle and we kind of like pretend to be polite, and it's like there's so many moments like this. I can't remember if it's this episode or the next episode where there's another one, but it's like it just happens again and again. And I can empathize with these women who are in these situations with him, where you're sort of walking that line, like, is this normal or is this not? Should I be concerned? Should I back off? Should I, so, and like we do that all the time.
Right. And even when it's not normal, you feel the compulsion to like normalize it and act like, I don't know. Like you said, it's just walking a delicate line.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
It's in the first episode too.
Jin-suk.
But
Jenny?
Ginny, yeah, because he's 30 and like trying to get her interest there as well.
He almost seemed like he was purposefully making her uncomfortable though, right? When he called her Jenny, and he wasn't supposed to know that.
He does that with all of them, doesn't he? He uses their name and they're like recoiling.
Right.
Yeah. But he looks like he's trying to seduce them that way. I don't know. It's so weird.
So creepy.
So creepy. He does it so well.
In Julia's house, she finds a photo. She's unpacking from a move apparently with her dad, and she finds a photo of herself that she doesn't recognize. And her dad tells her like where it was taken, and she's like, "But I haven't been there." And he jokes that it didn't look like she was enjoying it because she looks miserable in the photo or angry or something.
Let's back up to where she finds the photo though, because it was wrapped inside the bubble wrap, because it looks like they're unpacking stuff.
Yeah.
So it's so creepy to me. Like, how did he get access to that particular item to wrap it in the bubble wrap? And
that's the way she looked at her house when she came home was freaking me out too, because it looked like she suspected someone is in there that shouldn't be in there.
The front door was open.
Yeah, the door was open, the light was on, and I thought, yeah, maybe Harper is in there or something. But then she says that, but we hear later that she's already having suspicions that someone was there. Yeah, so and then there was this photo, and of course she freaked out.
And there was a moment even before we get to the house where she's walking really fast in the dark down that street, and that was another moment where I was immediately like put in her position, like when we, and you're walking at night and it's dark and you're scared and you're walking fast and you're just trying to get to where you're going and you're kind of looking around. And so she had that look about her, and then she's across the street from her house and she stops and she looks frozen as she's looking at it, because you can see the front door is already ajar. So then she goes inside calling for her dad, and it goes from there. Does she find the first Polaroid wrapped up in the bubble wrap, or did she find a Polaroid prior to that?
I think that was the first one.
Before she finds the photo, I just realized that her dad has put on some music,
Mhm.
and she doesn't recognize it, and he says, "I played it before. You know it."
Mm,
And she's like, "No, I don't."
yeah, I think I picked up on that too.
And then there was the photo, and in the photo she says as well, I don't recognize it.
Yeah.
I never went there. And he says, yeah, you were, but you didn't like it. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's confusing. I'm still okay.
Yeah, you're still trying to track who all's realities are changing as we go. And she's like, she's much more suspicious than than Jenny was in the last episode. Like she didn't seem as scared as she should have been, in my opinion, with the creepy umbrella appearing and him in the planetarium.
We never saw her act like her reality was altered, right?
I didn't notice. Yeah. I didn't notice anything that she felt was off except for the things that he had done or planted.
No, because obviously Julia's the same as Kirby, you know, the stuff
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah. So then we go to Kirby and she's cutting out an article. And I looked at the title. It was Report Questions Iraqi Troop Count. Why that article? Maybe it somehow ties into Julia and the veteran line of work. I don't know. It was confusing to me. But and Dan says he was looking for clips on her assault and there were none. Kirby says there wasn't much. And asks what was inside of Julia. And Dan says she can't be his colleague and his source at the same time. He has to be able to ask her questions and vet her answers, and asks her to explain what she meant when he said that Harper left something inside of her. So she brings him to a laundromat and says that he left a matchbook inside of her for a bar at the exact location of this laundromat. And, obviously she's researched it and there was never a bar here. And now
there will be.
Now he shows her his picture of what Harper left inside of Julia, which was like the Altoid radium box. And he asked her to walk through what happened to her. And she says she was by the North Avenue beach alone, walking her dog. And he starts asking her like very simple questions. Were you married to Marcus? Were you living together? Does he walk the dog with you? And she gets real weird about it for reasons that we understand. But I also understand why it's freaking him out, And it's so hard for her because she needs him to trust her. She's telling the truth, but if she told him the whole truth, which is my reality keeps changing. That's why I can't answer these questions. I don't know if I was married to Marcus. I don't know anything about Marcus, like she can't tell him that. She's trying to figure out a way to like answer his questions such that he believes her, but doesn't think she's crazy. Like how challenging would that be? Impossible. But he does accept it. And he interrupts her and asks if she has any family, and she says, we talked about my mom, and he says we didn't. And it's like the look on her face is just like so disappointed, like what do I do? You're literally things I'm telling you, you're forgetting. I couldn't possibly know that. How am I going to navigate the situation?
I had a question. Did we ever actually see Kirby talk about her mom to Dan?
I had the same question.
I don't think so. Did we?
Yeah.
Because I was wondering who's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to rewatch the first one. I thought that they talked about maybe her mom in the diner, but
No, she does. Yeah, she definitely doesn't talk about it because I went back and watched it.
Okay, good.
I don't think she does then. So
yeah,
it's weird to me she says that because it seems like the things that she says are usually the things that we see in her reality.
Right.
Or
that are
that
true.
she perceives as reality is what we've seen in her story so far. So it's odd to me that she would say that we talked about my mom and he says we didn't. I don't know, that part confused me and it still does.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because normally we get to see what she does, and we should have seen it, right? That she talked about her mom with him. And
it would have made more sense if they talked about her mom and she says that, in the laundromat scene, and he says, no, we never talked about it. And then we would realize, okay, so the perception changed or something shifted so,
Yeah, like the marriage, because everybody now thinks she's married. And maybe I thought it was the same for the talk, that he just forgot that they ever talked about it. Because in the new reality, she hasn't talked to her mom for a long time. So maybe that's why he's now saying, no, we never talked about her because she never talked about her because she is not talking to her. That was complicated.
Well, and in that scene, her mom doesn't remember things she told her. So I just kind of went along with the assumption that, like you guys are saying, like she was right and he was, and the reality had changed. But you're totally right. I don't remember her telling him. So that's new.
I like that he's at the end. He's like, "It's okay. I don't need all the answers now."
Yeah.
And she's like, "It's okay. We can talk about this step by step." And she's like, I just don't want to get it wrong. And I was thinking, like, how do you get it right? Because every 5 minutes your whole life is changing. Yeah. So, but he's really, I loved it. He's understanding and
he's
really
caring.
nice.
He's very like caring about her, and I love him in this. I really like this casting of him as Dan, and it's totally different from the book, but I like it a lot. And so he asks if her mom's local, and Kirby says she hopes so. And and he finally says these are very basic questions, and she says, for you, but not for me, not today. And he then like switches tacks, and he's like, just, is there anything that you can corroborate your story with? Is there anything that you can tell me? And so then she goes off to find her mom. How did she know how to find her mom?
Yeah, see, that was my question as well.
Oh, so I noticed that so the place is called The Well, and when she goes over there, she asks the woman who's standing outside if there's a cover. So I think this used to be a bar, and I think her mom, it used to be like a bar that her mom used to frequent in the other like timeline or whatever we're calling it. And then she goes inside and instead finds the religious community or whatever they were calling it. So, and then she sees her mom. Did you guys read the little pamphlet or the little thing that she picks up?
Yeah. What did it say?
So, all are welcome. The Well Community Church, open every day, with Rachel Leeds and the Well Band. So her mother's name was actually on that pamphlet thing. And we are non-denominational, we are non-judgmental, we are non-exclusive, we are the Well. Join us in praise and worship, service and praise every day of the week, building community and faith in the city, forming bonds and friendship and faith.
Fun.
So
it's funny how different her mom is in this scenario.
Right.
I thought it was really funny when she asked the cover charge.
Yeah, so that's what I think it is that she was going there because it's a bar maybe that she used to go to, and it's changed to this religious place.
That's the only thing that could make sense, because like I went back and looked at her little notebook just to see if it said anything about her mom, and it didn't. So I was just like, huh?
Well, she said lives with Rachel in like the very first scene where she's writing notes. And at the time, I didn't know Rachel was her mom. So I was like then trying to figure out. And then later on, she calls her mom Rachel or something like that.
Yeah, in the first episode already. She always calls first Rachel and then mom.
So were you surprised it was her mom at first?
Yeah, at first I thought she has a roommate, and then she says mom, and then I thought maybe she has two roommates, her mom and another roommate. But then they fusioned into one person.
I also wondered if Rachel would be the cousin, because she was going to go live with a cousin in Florida. And so when I'm still trying to figure out what the show is and piecing it all together, I was wondering if that note meant that she will be living with Rachel later when she moves to Florida or Orlando, but that's not what it was.
Did anybody remember from the first episode if her mom ever says the Well that she was there? Because she
I don't remember it.
Okay.
But it's a name that could be a bar, but it also kind of makes sense with
your
religious group. So I kind of liked the duality of the Well.
But it's funny that she said that her name was on the pamphlet, because she didn't seem like she realized it. And then only because she heard the voice that she turns around, because she was on the way out again.
I noticed that too, because I watched it twice, the episode twice. In the first watch, I didn't pay attention to the pamphlet at all. And then she clearly didn't, it was her hearing her mom's voice that got her to realize her mom was there. And then when I paused it to read what the pamphlet said, I realized her mom's name was on it. So I guess maybe she just didn't see it, but I don't know. If my mom's name was on something like that and I was picking it up and look, I would probably notice it. But
Yeah.
It's weird that you have well on your shirt too, Rachel.
oh, that's right.
Our reality changing.
Lovely.
Yeah, and I like that we see later that she is still the same person, because she was like this punk and drunk person before she found the well, and now she's religious and not a drunk anymore, it seems. So it's
Right.
like we skipped ahead 2 years, but we didn't, apparently.
I mean, she could have still had the same vice before, because a lot of people, like when they get sober and stuff, they also, sometimes religion also gives them that strength and pulls
Yes.
them out of it. I think it's one of the steps for AA is to put your faith in a higher power. So I think sometimes that they go together, but that would also track with what Claudia just said, like that, you know, I'm still trying to figure out, time seems to not necessarily be moving forward, but the things around Kirby change or shift. So, but that would sort of indicate that there was some type of progression with her mother to have been, maybe if she had been an alcoholic and then she found her religion later. I don't know. It's very, yeah, it's very, very hard to kind of follow, but
Yeah, so she's doing well in this life, her mom, and finding religion appears to freak Kirby out more than all the other things. Her mom is equally shocked to see Kirby, as if it's been a very long time. Kirby wants to get out of there, but she doesn't manage to escape without a prayer huddle. Speaking of like introverts, I would not have enjoyed that.
Oh God,
moment
no,
no.
that
of being
freaked me out.
surrounded and touched.
The group hug with touching her back, and yeah, I didn't.
Oh God.
Especially a victim of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's impressive that Kirby tolerated the group hug. I would have lost my shit and run out of there. But obviously her mom's like over the top in the church now, which is confirmed when Kirby gets to her mom's apartment and there are crosses everywhere. Rachel hands her a scrapbook of her as a baby, and she clarifies that she needs the photos and the journals from after the hospital, and tells her that there's another woman that's been attacked or killed by maybe the same man. And her mom's clearly like appalled that she's helping, but she tells her where to find the files. And then she finds a VHS of Kirby at one of her concerts, and then singing together, and it's sweet. And Kirby, like, they both enjoy that moment. And then Kirby looks at her and asks why they don't talk anymore. And her mom says it was Kirby's call, but she's welcome to come to services anytime she wants, which is a weird answer to me, I think. Like, those two things shouldn't be relevant unless you're requiring her to go to services in order to have a relationship.
Why does it have to be services? Like, couldn't they just get lunch or something?
yeah. She doesn't live there, obviously, so I didn't understand that. But it's also funny when she says about the band, they're all dead now or in real estate.
That was so good.
It was also a shot of Kirby. I'm thinking that's before the attack, because she looks completely different, and her whole demeanor is different. She's more lively. She seems to be have a lot more, she seems more free. She doesn't seem quite as guarded. She's, getting up on stage and singing, and her hair is different. So and she seemed to recognize it, Kirby. So it didn't look like a thing like the picture with the wedding. It didn't look like something that she didn't recognize, because she was laughing and she was remembering it. So this is probably something true that she does remember from her past. And it just looked to me like something that had happened in the before she had been attacked.
Yeah.
So I assume her before memory is pretty solid, like before the attack, that none of that is changing, hopefully.
Right, because everything starts shifting after that happens.
And we mentioned it in the last episode, but the fact that it's been 6 years of this happening to her, like, I don't know, or just be insane.
Exactly. Can you imagine? I can't imagine. No.
A little later in the episode, we get to know that she is post-attack, she has been confused and stuff, and then it went that far that she was sent to I don't know how it is called in
Rehab,
America.
kind of.
Yeah, mental health Yeah, right. And so she did, and she was there after a few months. So maybe the time shifting and stuff and the things changing happened after the attack, and she couldn't cope with it, and that's why she
Gotcha.
ended up there.
And then
And
she realized she just has to live with it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's a good call.
I think it was like was it psychiatric observation? Psychiatric observation.
Yeah,
that
maybe.
sounds right. Yeah. So Dan asks the old man that we saw Julia with earlier. He's interviewing him and asked if she ever talked about any friends, and he said never. And shows him a picture of the radium box, and he says he's never seen radium before. And he said Julia didn't appear to be scared until it was too late. He says she got real scared a few weeks before her death, and she went from like really tough girl to terrified victim. Dan interprets that as Harper must have been following her. And he asks the police station if Julia made any stalking complaints. And he asks the detective about the second victim, and the detective claims he doesn't know a second victim. I don't like this guy. He talks shit about Kirby changing her name right here, when in fact in the last episode he told her that she needed to change her name and her hair and her look so that she could have a fresh start. And he's just so dismissive of her and talking shit so that Dan won't believe her. And I don't understand the motivation for that. And that's when I think he tells us about the mental health, because he's just trying to further
discredit her.
Discredit. Thank you.
This is
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. And he says you can't build a story around her. She had no memory after the assault, and she had a mental breakdown after. Infuriating.
Yeah.
No shit.
And the detective does admit that Julia was being stalked, but he says it was by Pablo, who is in jail, and warns Dan to read up on Kirby before he starts believing her. I'm really tired of the lazy policeman bullshit. I hate it.
Yes. Here.
They just want a suspect, regardless of if it's the right one or not.
Right. Don't care at all if it's the right one. We just want.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's so true to life. It happens all the time. I mean, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and it seems like all the stories that we hear about, mainly because these are the ones that have gone unsolved, are because of that exact thing. They, like, those who are in the position where they're supposed to be doing the investigation to find who did it, just decide who they want it to be, and then they only look for evidence that makes that person look guilty, and that's how a lot of people who aren't guilty get incarcerated.
It's usually people who are vulnerable as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and they can't defend themselves or afford to, and I don't see how a policeman could live with themselves after doing that. But
agreed.
The guy that is supposedly has been stalking her, I mean, he seems not right in his head.
He's definitely mentally unwell.
Yeah. And it's freaking me out that they immediately said that he was it, because it doesn't really look like he could do something like that. And they don't even go further in this. I'm wondering why they said that he was the stalker, because I mean, we know a bit later in the episode that it was definitely not him that was stalking her. So I would not think that Julia went to the police officer and said that he was the one.
It was this guy, right?
Yeah. So
right, like, has this guy done anything wrong? I don't know that he has. He's just targeted.
Maybe we get to this later, but for now it doesn't seem like any of the clues point to him. So
he was just targeted because he couldn't defend himself. He was the easiest option. That was it.
Yeah.
So Kirby gets home to Marcus now and asks when she was supposed to be home. I guess she can tell he's late, and he says a couple hours ago. And she asks why he isn't asking her about it, and says he knows she'll talk about it when she wants to. Do you want to talk about it? No. It would be really hard being married to someone that you don't know. I hate this.
Sure.
Development.
But I think I was really grateful for Marcus there, because I was weirded out the first 2-3 times we saw him. I was a little bit taken aback by him, because he's like, so, I mean, he watched her and stuff, but he didn't really say anything. And now we get to know why. And I love that he wasn't mad about her being so late and leaving him on his own for dinner and stuff, because I know that many series go that way, that the men are always jerks that are like freaking out when the woman does not what they should do. But he's
Right.
like saying, yeah, I know something is up, and if you want to talk about it, I'm here. But if you don't wanna drink your beer and chill, and I will be there whenever you need me. And I love this. I mean, we don't know much about him, but it's really fortunate that she ended up with him in this situation, because think about coming home not knowing that you had a supposed dinner date, and he is just shitting on you and calling you out, and you sitting there and don't have any idea what you have done wrong. So
we're putting expectations on you to do things that you're not ready to do with this. Practically a complete stranger. Yeah, I like that he was chill, that she came home late. Actually, the chillness until he said the thing, when you want to tell me you will, because I think he is a little bit bothered about the fact that, because he mentions it, he says, how did he put it? You forgot my birthday, or you
fucked up my birthday.
My birthday. And she's been acting weird. He notices stuff. It's not that he's not oblivious. He knows something's wrong, but I liked when he said, when you want to tell me, you will. Like, he's not forcing her he's not making demands on her. And I think it just goes to show, even if she has no mental history of their relationship, what it tells me is he's been very understanding with her and her personal particular circumstances, and knows how to give her space like that when she needs it.
I hope that he doesn't turn on her later. I'm so very.
Is this guy in the book?
No.
Later in the episode, I get a weird feeling he might be a baddie.
Yeah, so he rubs me wrong. I thought I was in the minority until you said that.
Marcus is not. Marcus is in the book?
No.
He's not.
So, yeah, I got a weird vibe at the beginning of that episode, and I was having the feeling that this will backfire on her being with him. But then this scene was like getting me the clues that he was actually caring for her a whole lot. And so I don't trust him fully, because he's just thrown in her life. But
is it this episode where Dan calls him a martyr, or is it the next one?
No, it's this
that
one.
is this episode, in the car.
Yeah.
Because when he said that, like, I just got a weird vibe. Like, I personally didn't get a weird vibe from Marcus at the beginning or in those other scenes, but when Dan mentioned he was a martyr and he said all decency but no compassion, and I got some weird kind of feeling from that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought it was like Dan. I really like Dan. So the fact that he doesn't seem to like Marcus was a really interesting little detail that was thrown in there.
Yeah, I didn't seem to get the full vibe that he doesn't like him, but he seems like they are not close, but he's not a baddie, but he is not the best person either.
Yeah, I don't think he's a big fan.
That was the thing that threw me off again. Yeah, I know.
And I mentioned in the first episode too that when we first meet Marcus, and he approaches her from behind and like surprises her, which is not cool considering her incident. But he may not know about that. I'm not saying.
Yeah, he probably doesn't.
Right, but I wonder if the showrunners did that for a reason. And the Walkman that he takes off and he's listening to is a song called Ain't You by Kleenex. And there's very few lyrics in it, but take your radio and your lies, take your radio and your love is the main lyrics, in fact. So I don't know. Doesn't sound super positive if they chose that.
Oh, God.
But he just rubbed me wrong. I don't know why. So I guess we'll find out. But yeah, he's not doing anything wrong in the scene. He's being understanding totally.
And he seems to know about her history there, right? In this scenario, he knows that he was assaulted. Yeah. Okay.
I also feel bad for Julia, who is living alone and finding Polaroids of herself that are being taken like at the moment she finds them, or after, I guess, the moment after she finds them.
That's like the most scary thing. Like this is a really classic horror scene when she's like alone in a house and she's coming down the stairs and but the added layer of the Polaroids were just, that was like giving me chills. Like she would pick up a Polaroid and it would be of her the second after that
Yeah.
saw the picture, and that was giving me chills. That was really effective. I thought that was
really
cool.
creative twist, Harper. Well done. He's putting a lot more effort into fucking with Julia than he was with Jin Suk. But maybe I think we said in the previous episode, maybe that's because she's scared and he's just getting the desired response from her, perhaps.
One thing always in these scenes when like someone thinks they're in the house, why do you back yourself against the door? Can you please
Oh God.
go in a corner that you can see everything? Hello?
It's probably to build that tension for the viewer, because I was sitting there thinking that something was going to jump up behind her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, but it creates that tension for that moment.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
nobody's turning on the lights. Nobody.
But nobody ever turns the lights on.
I mean, I heard from an ex-colleague, he said somebody tried to break into their house while they were sleeping, and he, I think he had a baseball bat or something in his room and took it, and he said he was so stupid he went down and didn't turn the lights on, like in the movie.
Really?
So maybe it's really a reaction.
Maybe it's realistic. Huh.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to
see.
That they see you. You want to surprise them.
What happened? Was he okay?
Yeah, the dog started to alert everyone, and then they ran away. So yeah,
that's why doggos are the best.
Yeah,
they are. I mean, they've talked to like career criminals who say that the biggest deterrent to them breaking into a house is a dog. Not a lock, not an alarm system, but a dog.
It was even the same that you have, Kimberly.
A golden retriever.
Yes.
Oh, the best doggies.
Yeah. So about the Polaroids, the first one, was that the one from the beach? I can't remember now. Was
in her bedroom, right?
Very first.
She finds it sitting in a chair.
Yeah. So the first one is one that was from her past, apparently. So the second one is from just moments before, when she was in the window, and the third one is the future. So that was creeping me out a lot.
It was a lot of work for Harper because he has to go to that time to take the picture like a couple times and put it there, and
he knows every step she's going to take. This means that in every timeline he does this. If he really does this in multiple timelines, I have no clue, but it seems like that because he has the Polaroid from the future and he knows her steps. So every time it's the same for her, and he knows every second of what's going to happen. He knows when she's going to take the telephone, when she's going to step on the damn bubble wrapper.
The bubbles,
yeah.
It's terrifying. Good work, everybody. Very scary. Yeah, well, she runs through the house and finds a box cutter, which like you use for opening boxes when you move, and so it's a good weapon to have. And
I think that would do good.
Yeah. I don't remember Harper in the book being quite this clever, was he?
Well, what he did is that he got more like elaborate with the kills.
Okay.
Like
serial killers too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that is my interpretation of that. Like he focuses more on Julia, maybe because that was a later kill than Jin Suk, maybe.
Right. Makes sense.
So yeah, maybe he needs to get more excited from it, so he gets more elaborate, I think. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The phone call that they had was freaky as well. Like he has these, it's like these little lines, but like when he said, she's like, I don't know you, and he's like, you did, you will.
You will. Mm-hmm.
Like and then it's like, do you think you can remember the future?
And he said that she doesn't need the box cutter. You don't need it. I'm not in the house. I'm not in the house, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you talked about the picture when he said they're from tomorrow, but you may not be there. Everything he says is terrible.
We didn't talk about that.
We didn't mention that one yet. That's I wrote that line down too, because that's another it's they're from tomorrow, but you may not be the pictures, right? That's what he's referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
from tomorrow, but you may not be there.
And then when he says when he says though, when I close my eyes, the memories that I have, I don't know where they're from anymore. You think you can remember the future? It must, like, I was wondering, like, how confusing must this be for him too? Just jumping.
I wonder if he has his own notebook.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wondered about that too, because it's he must be in so many different scenarios, and he must keep mixing them up, but he doesn't. So yeah, so weird. How?
So then Dan calls her out on not being Kirby Mizrachi. She's Sharon Leeds. And he doesn't appreciate her not telling him her real name, which is fair because he's been trying to help investigate her case. And you need the name for that. But she shows him the pictures she got from her mom's, and he says he can't believe how like light the police report was for this kind of attack and these kind of injuries, because that guy's lazy. And she says they took her report when she was on pain meds, and they said they'd come back, but they never did bother.
There's another example of them being shit.
Yeah,
they're clearly shit. And then he grills her on why she stopped trying to be a reporter, and she says she was out too long and this archive job was all she could get. So I guess her shine was she was about to, be a great reporter.
Mm.
And he asks her why she has no description of Harbor, and she says he came up from behind me, but I don't know why nobody else saw him. There were so many people, and then there just weren't, and I was alone. And is that simply a commentary on human beings and their shittiness? Like,
I don't know, because
I felt like maybe it's happened a few times and she can't remember each scenario.
Oh god,
when the attack happened a few times.
I don't know, because it was just weird how she said there was so many people and then all of a sudden there weren't. Like,
so I took it literally, because I took it as, even though her changing perceptions kind of seemed to start after she got out of the hospital, but when she said there was lots of people around and then there was no one. So in my head, when I'm visualizing this, I imagined like swarms of people walking around and then everybody disappears, like, because he seems to have this ability to change things.
Yes.
And so it could be that he changed the circumstances to his benefit so that he could attack her with nobody intervening. So I took it literally.
Yeah, that's what my head was going to. I thought that it was because he was there and he I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, if he can do it on purpose whenever he wants to, but it looked like he did this. That
like the cup thing didn't seem to be something he did deliberately, but it seemed to be something that just happened. Like he had a coffee mug and it turned into a teacup, and he seemed to notice it, but it didn't strike him as odd because it's his life.
Yeah, but maybe it's this thing that Kimberly said, that was just because his emotions just boiled up, and it was on accident because he was just emotional. Yeah.
Maybe.
I wondered if it's just like there's that crime story I learned about in like college where like 37 people witnessed a woman being stabbed and over the course of an hour and a half, and nobody did anything. They didn't call the police. He got like scared off twice and then came back and continued both times, and nobody helped her. Nobody called the police. It's a very upsetting story.
Could just be again that people are shit.
Yeah,
that's my explanation for everything.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, maybe it's both. Like maybe in this story, it is literally that people disappeared, but in reality, people could have just ignored it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is that commentary on the way society ignores people in trouble.
Yeah. And he asks if she's had any break-ins or wrong numbers before the attack. And she says no, but it felt off. Like when I got back to my house, it felt like somebody had been there. And he tells her about Julia and how she was stalked. So she also tells him that she doesn't want anyone else in the office to know that she's his source.
Did it seem strange to any of you that she didn't seem to have ever considered the fact that he had stalked her or been watching her? That seemed to be the very first time she'd even considered that.
Thought about it, yeah, true.
I thought that was weird.
He was watching me? She was totally taken aback.
Because she's had 6 years to kind of sit with this, and I would have thought that she would have already gone through that in her head. Like she was already, because she said that she was sensing that already. Like she would come home and feel like someone had just been there. So, and then she's attacked, and then I would think she would retroactively go back in her head and be like, you know, I wonder if he was stalking me. I wonder if he was following me. But this seemed to be honestly the first time she'd even considered that possibility when he said that to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's weird.
And Dan was saying to her, "Is there anything else you need to tell me?" And I mean, of course there is. And she hides it from him again. I think this will come back soon. This will backfire on both of them, that she doesn't tell him. Then she distracts him by saying, "No one can know that I'm your source."
That's what she said just to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Dan's driving her to Julia's dad's house, and I love the look she gives him as she kicks the liquor bottles on the passenger floor.
Yeah.
And he tells her about his son, and he asks if Marcus and her are going to have kids. And I also love when she asks what he thinks about Marcus, because she doesn't know him.
Her line where she says, "We haven't really talked about it." Like, it's another truthful line that's also, it sounds normal, but it's also at the same time like, no, technically they really haven't talked about it. They haven't talked about,
we haven't talked about much.
Did they ever say how long they'd been together for?
No.
I don't think so. Too bad there wasn't a date on that picture.
I love the clapback from Diane. I haven't formed an opinion on him yet.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
You haven't got a read on him yet. It's so funny how he says it.
Yeah.
So she says, "I think he's nice."
Her husband.
That's all I can say.
She uses the word kind, which is sort of, she says, "I think he's
kind."
Oh, is it kind? Yeah.
And then that's when he says, "That's not his read," or I forget how he put that. "That's not my read," or "That's not my take. He is a martyr, all decency but no compassion." It's just interesting, his perception of.
I mean, a martyr is not bad, right? I mean, he just
unless they're doing it for the fame, I don't know, recognition.
I don't understand all decency but no compassion. I don't really understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, I didn't really get that either, but it sounded.
Well, now that you say it, maybe that's how I felt about that scene with her in the kitchen. He's being decent. He's not pushing her,
right? Yeah,
giving her space, but he doesn't seem as concerned as he should be. So maybe that, like, I don't know that he feels the compassion.
Yeah,
she's clearly very like fucked up, and he's willing to just let that live its own life over there. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Can we back to the car, because I also put a note in here, because he makes that call about Marcus, and she kind of says, "Well, you're not married," and then he says, "Nope, but I'm highly eligible."
Yeah, I wondered about that. Why
did he flirting with her there? Because
I thought that too.
Out of left field, all of a sudden, like,
blue, yeah.
And she found it funny.
And then she gets a look on her face. Oh, she gets a look on her face that reminded me. I'm doing the crossover thing right here, but it reminded me of the look on her face after Nick says, "You shouldn't wear anything for me." She gets that kind of like reaction face. So, so I don't know. I just picked up on that.
No, that was a good point.
Maybe they'll end up together. Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
All right. At Julia's house, there's a lot of food and some women happily talking to reporters, but the dad slams the door and says he can't do this anymore. Like, it's nice that he's having a realistic reaction and a caring reaction, whereas other people are having a lot of fun and wanting to get interviewed. And Kirby goes around back and she takes her earrings off. I couldn't figure out why she was doing that, but she says she's Julia's friend and goes inside and pretends she's returning her earrings, which is still kind of strange with a dead person. I feel like you probably just
after all this time.
Unless they were like diamonds. I get it, but they didn't look like diamonds. But hey, it gets her in, and while she's inside snooping, Dan sees Harper outside. Dan meets Harper. And he was like talking to the news, if you need anything else, while they're like wrapping it, closing up and leaving. And so Dan offers, he's like, if you got a statement, I'll take it. And they start talking, and Harper asks how he knows he's not a reporter, and he names a newspaper that's been closed for 10 years. But Dan's still not He doesn't like suspect him because of this. And they're both wearing the same color jacket. I don't know if you mentioned that. And Dan looks so drunk in this scene to me.
He
that
is.
I hadn't noticed previously. His eyes are bloodshot. He's all like sweaty and gross.
He looks like that in the car.
I didn't notice it in the car.
Maybe he had like 10 shots, like in that time that she's gone inside. And, like,
Yeah, this punch. Was it a punch, or what did
Was it
he
like-
put in his cup? What?
It
Yeah.
looks like lemonade, but I get the feeling that it's like alcohol because he like runs to it, you know?
Oh yeah, and the way he pops the ice into his mouth, it was so gross.
I was paying attention to Harper's clothes because he's wearing the same clothes in this scene that he was when he met Julia for the first time at the home. And I've been paying attention because I'm trying to see if I can piece together his timeline by seeing what he's wearing.
Right, because his jacket changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in the next episode, I see him wearing different things. But in this episode, I noticed that in the scene with Dan, when he's talking to Dan, I was like, he's wearing the same clothes. Like when he was, they were bringing a lot of attention to his clothes in that scene. Like, how do I look? And pointing out the buttons and all those things. So, and then later on, he's wearing the same clothes. So I'm like, I don't know. It's like, because we've got 2 points in time, one when he's first meeting Julia, and the next one is after she's dead, and they have this funeral or whatever it is, a wake. I don't know,
like a wake, it feels like, yeah.
Anyway, but it's interesting that he's wearing the same clothes.
That's a good idea to try and figure out his timeline. So then, Harper says he read him when Dan tells him his name, and he wrote about Julia. Harper kind of talks shit to Dan. Maybe you shouldn't be standing around talking to me. And Dan says, that's the job. And Harper looks around and says, and why is everyone else gone? Which would be a valid point if you weren't actually talking to the murderer.
That's why I kind of thought he was drinking alcohol, because like, I don't know. It's just
I think he was.
Yeah, like, because he was just hanging around.
Yeah. Well, when she finds him on the curb, he looks like he's like passing out.
Harper saying the thing with, why is everybody gone? It's so freaky. I mean, is he giving him a hint, or what is he going about? I mean, the way he looked at him after saying, you think there is another victim, that was weird as well. But it was like him checking Dan out. I mean, Dan was thinking that he was coming onto his way of thinking, but the sentence afterwards should have rang bells. So maybe Dan would have noticed it if he wasn't that drunk, right?
Yeah, he would have been more observant. Inside, Kirby finds a tiny tape in Julia's jewelry box, which I barely remember from the distant past, an answering machine. I do think we had these when I was a kid. And it's a 911 call from Julia about someone in her house. She says she's never seen him, but he's here. And then the next message, we get Harper. And finally, Kirby's heard the voice again, and she knows for sure it's the same guy. And he creepily says, I'm already with you when they arrive. I'm with you every moment. I'm with you through everything that has happened, everything that will happen. I'm with all of you. He's so good at being creepy.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying. Yeah. And so I guess he's about to kill her in that. Well, no, because she put it in the jewelry box.
He's about to take her. I don't know when.
I think she's, after the call, she hit the tape, and then he went and got her, maybe.
That's depressing. Yeah,
really.
I guess so. So, and he seems just to have messed with Julia a lot more than Jin-Suk, like I said before. Kirby grabs the tape and rushes outside and tells Dan that she's heard his voice. It's him. And they play it for Dan's boss. They give Kirby like a little bit of a hard time for stealing it, but then decide the police didn't look for it, so whatever. And his boss offers him another reporter to help, but Dan looks at Kirby and says he's good with her. Then the boss asks about his source and what he found out about her, and he just said that she held up just fine and is keeping his promise not to tell. And then we see Harper in his house now, old looking place, and on the bedspread is what looks like the radium outline of a body. Also, what kind of monster doesn't sleep under a blanket or a sheet or something?
Like all the time, because that markings, the radium markings was clearly like there. I got major Norman Bates vibes from that final scene of that the aerial shot over the bed, if you guys are familiar
Yeah.
with Psycho.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that just creeped me out. It also made me wonder if if Julia was someone who he killed and then just kept and just sort of had like for a while, the same way like that's goes in line with the Norman Bates
Yeah,
thing. But then
because yeah.
didn't they also say, didn't the detective or whoever Dan talked to earlier about when they found Julia and they were going through, I thought there were indications she was still alive when he was dragging her out there to dump her.
Yeah,
Like,
he
Yeah,
said
there was
there was. She was only like able to breathe, but
something about her armpits or something.
Yeah.
broken blood vessels or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think she was laying in the bed then?
maybe he bound her, like she could have been tied up and unable to move and just laying there.
How long does it take for radium to make it like an imprint, like a glow?
Probably not long.
Also, why is she covered in radium?
She wasn't. That's the thing why I don't think it was her. I think it's another victim that we see there. And I mean, at first I didn't get that was the radium outlines basically of a body. I thought it was like some body decayed there, and that's why there are outlines. But the second time I looked at it, it glows. There is something. And when we look back at him seeing that Julia glows, it's inside. It's only where the box was.
Yeah.
So it's not her whole body. So the other person who was laying next to him must have been covered.
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe from that timeline, he took the box and put it then into Julia.
Yeah, maybe he got the radium from another victim or something.
Yeah, well, and Spook sent us that article about the radium craze in like the early 1900s. So I'll just read a little bit because it's interesting that after Marie and Pierre Curie discovered it in 1898, and they discovered later that it kills cancer cells, they decided that it's this like magic cure-all and that you could take it to cure anything. And people started like having radium parties, and they made 1 billion radium products like that Altoid box of like radium. And everyone's consuming radium, and it's so crazy.
Didn't they put it in toothpaste and stuff?
Yeah, literally like so many
Everything.
things. And it looks cool because it makes you glow in the dark. So then people are painting themselves in it like the Radium Girl. And the saddest story is there's a group of people called the Radium Girls who painted watches in East Orange, New Jersey, and they had to turn the radium into paint. They had to like put the paintbrush in their mouth. And and so they're literally swallowing this radium, and soon they started losing their teeth and getting all these sores, and when they go to the doctor, they realize all of their bones had disintegrated. Like they said, they like gently held her chin and it just came apart, like all the bones.
No.
Anyway, and they're all like dying. I know, but they're all dying like so fast that they actually like sued the company, and they did settle out of court, but like most of them are dead by the time this happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's very depressing. I really didn't know about this part of life. And the way the article ends is kind of appropriate. By the mid-1930s, the radium craze subsided as the scientists and inventors who had pioneered the use of radium slowly died of cancer.
Yeah.
Their radioactive bodies were buried in lead-lined graves. Radium, the marble of the future, had become a menace. Well, that's appropriate, I suppose.
So back to what Claudia was saying about how the victim that was probably in the bed was the Radium Girl, and then there was the radium box that was put inside of Julia. So I think at some point, was it this episode? I can't remember which episode it was mentioned in, where the objects that are put inside the victims are not, they're related to other victims. So like the matchbox inside of Kirby would have been it would have been connected to a different victim, and the radium box inside of Julia is from the other Radium Girl victim.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I assume. Every like token, I guess.
Yeah.
Is from another victim.
It's a serial killer thing, right? Don't they usually take tokens?
Yeah.
Did you guys have any other topics or notes you want to talk about?
Oh, the only thing I had It was a quote from from episode 1, and then it's the one that they use in all of the trailers, all of the promos for it. He's everybody, he's nobody, he's all the fucking time. So like that line, those lines are like so appropriate to this particular story, but also like I would think anybody who's been a victim of any kind of trauma who just goes through their life, especially if they don't really know who it was who did it, if they can't really get an image of them, just the idea that you don't feel safe, you nowhere and no one feels safe to you because you're just suffering from that PTSD and you're so I feel like those words work. It's like a lot of the dialogue in this show that has it's appropriate because it's an honest thing to say, but it's also appropriate in another way. So that just was something that struck me of that line, was that it speaks to the mindfuckery of the story, but it also speaks to how trauma affects people.
Yeah. I think the whole show is, a metaphor for that, which it's maybe doesn't seem as horrifying as your whole reality shifting, but it is just horrifying to have to relive.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our episode 2 analysis of Shining Girls. Thanks for listening, and come back tomorrow for episode 3.
Bye.
Bye.